Computer. Hello and welcome to Discover Energy Work. Well, we've been away for a while, but I want to introduce you to really interesting people. So I don't want to do just interviews for the sake of it. So I now have an interesting person, Tobias Schwartz, no? All the way from
I
Brazil,
heard you.
and yeah, we actually know each other. So it's an interesting story. So
We know each other for 10 years.
yeah, well, more than.
We met 10 years ago in
Oh, 10 years
2004
ago. Wow.
when David Cannon was in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The first
It was
time.
quite crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's 10 years. Goodness gracious.
I was there with our common friend.
Right.
Remember?
I do. I do
Yes.
remember. Yes. And look, introduce yourself. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, thank you. So yeah, I'm Tobias Schwartz, Blass. I don't know what to say when somebody says introduce yourself. It's quite
Okay.
hard all the time.
I mean, I'm
Um,
an interviewer. I can sort of, you are a special
it's
forces
okay.
sniper, a remote viewer, and somebody who's actually written
Yes, a
like
couple more things. Yeah,
you've written a book, so you're an author, and you're living
yeah,
in Brazil. There's a lot of interesting things there. And I just finished
indeed.
reviewing um the book from Center Lane, and I was
Oh,
saying,
it's an amazing book. Jana did such a great job with Tom and Paul. They did such a great job. Jana is such a lovely person. She's one of my
right,
best friends. She's a lovely person.
right. It's a great book. I think it's an interesting book. I'm not sure everybody's gonna like it, but I think there's interesting it's like academic work. Yeah. There's
Exactly.
information which they can quote their sources, they can quote their references, and they can say like
Exactly.
this is meaningful
And I
information.
think not exactly. No, and I think not everybody likes their beliefs challenged if they have different beliefs than in the book,
Nobody likes their
right?
beliefs challenged.
I do. Indeed, I
Oh,
do.
you do?
Believe it or
Okay, well
not,
there you
I
are.
do.
Okay, well no, there you are. That's good. So you believe you do. That's good. No, just kidding. So tell us.
Yeah,
So
you're
I haven't seen you for
right.
over 10 years, and you've become like I think you were
It's
sort
true.
of
Indeed.
a young man then, and you don't look very old
I
now.
am now, I turned 38 just a couple of weeks ago, actually. So I'm not that young anymore.
Right.
Um, so I'm give you I'm going to give you quite a little bit of a history of me. When I was 17, I joined the German military. I'm German, by the way. I'm not Brazilian, even though I live in Brazil now. And I joined the German military when I was 17 with the consent of my mom, and I had to go to become a special forces sniper. Obviously, everybody laughed at me, said like, you're never going to make the cut because I was skinny. I was always very sporty and very intelligent, and very yeah, those kind of things. And but nobody actually thought I could do it. So I tried anyway. So I went through basic training, then they admitted me to specialized basic training, and then I applied for special forces, for reconnaissance special forces, and I got through the whole process of the testing phase and everything. And the training overall was 2.5 years. After 1 year, you can decide what you want to do, right? If you want to be a medic, a breacher, a sniper, whatever you want to be, right? I chose to be a medic actually, because a sniper is not really uh, one of those four main characteristics that you can be, or one of those four main roles that you can choose. Being
Right.
a sniper is just one specialty that you can get along the way. And that's what I chose because I thought, hey, being a medic is great because I have a huge affinity to medicine. But at the other side, I wanted to be of value to my team. So, and the medic doesn't need to be on site all the time.
Right.
So why not be on some rooftop or on some window on a balcony, protecting my team, right? And in that process, I learned a lot about what snipers actually are and what they aren't, because people assume snipers, um, they shoot all the time, they kill people all the time. What actually happens is snipers are people who go behind enemy lines by different sources, usually by parachuting or diving or watercraft. So we go behind the enemy lines and we hide. And then what we do is we collect information. So we are trained 95% in perception skills and only 5% in shooting. And that's also a rough about the ratio that is going on when we're actually deployed in field. So what we need to do is we need to develop a really detailed skill set about perception. And for everybody who knows remote viewing is all about perception, right? And how
Right.
to put those perceptions on the paper. So I had to learn how to draw. I had to learn how to develop a certain vocabulary, how to describe things, how to relay them back to the headquarters and my superiors. So that's what I put also in my book. The whole process of this training that I went through. Not the shooting part, obviously, because that's not really interesting for remote viewers, I guess.
Right. Right.
Um,
It
but
is
the
interesting.
whole perceptional part, yeah.
Yeah. Don't let me stop you.
Ah, okay, sorry. So yeah, that was a big thing, and I was fortunate enough that the army let me study psychology and neuroscience while I was there because my unit got dissolved after 3 years. So I had my training done, was deployed for one time to Iraq for 4 months, and then they dissolved my unit. So I had the chance to either leave or to change into a different special forces unit, which I did. Unfortunately, I didn't make the cut to be that kind of soldier, that kind of super soldier. So I became an instructor, sniper instructor. And during that time, I was allowed to study psychology and neuroscience, and I specialized in perceptual skills and developed the next perceptual uh, training for special forces snipers that is now still in use all around Germany and
Okay.
some other countries as well.
Right. Which is
That's about it.
so yeah, this is interesting. I've got to go back to because one thing that I'm particularly interested in is the journey, because like um how
Yes.
does a seven well maybe it didn't start with 17. So how did you get to remote viewing? I mean, what made you think
Oh,
like was
that
there
was
any
even earlier. That's quite funny
right?
because I was 13 and I read a book from a German remote Manfred Hedinsky. It's called Tanz der Dimension, so Dance of Dimensions. And he was describing the journey, how remote viewing came to Germany. And I was completely fascinated. And I don't know if you know Gunther Attai, but he's the German technical remote viewing instructor. So I was like in the office of my grandpa, my grandfather, and I wrote him a fax, an old fax. He had a fax machine, my grandpa, and I wrote Gunther a fax if he could train me in TRV. And I was 14 at that time.
Mm,
So Gunther obviously said, look, you're 14 years old, you're a bit young, your brain paths are not yet quite developed. It might be wiser if you come back when you're 18, 19, 20, a bit older, a bit wiser. And the person, I mean, I'm not a person who's very patient. I can be patient, but I'm not very patient. So as soon as the first manuals came out in German, I started to read those manuals and just did it on my own, basically. And my first session was a huge success, as with almost everybody.
yeah.
The first time
Yeah.
effect is something we know quite well. So my first remote training session was an immense success. And from that moment on, I was hooked. And that was when I was 15, I think. Yeah.
Right.
So from that moment on,
So
I never let
tell
go.
me about this first session. I mean, like you're
Oh,
15.
yeah.
You sat down at the target, you just trained yourself. and then you started following your instructions. So what
Exactly. So I have, okay, so I have ADHD, which means I can not focus on things that I'm not interested in, but I can focus very well on things that I'm interested in. I have a hyper focus on things, and I soak up information like a sponge. So I read this manual one time. It was a manual from stage 1 to 3, and I just did it. I just said to my sister, I have two sisters, and I just said to one sister, hey, please take one picture, take a picture, any kind of picture, put it in an envelope, put numbers on there, random numbers, 4 and 4, and give me the envelope back. So I did that. She did that, or she did that. And um, so I had this envelope, and I started the session with the ideogram, and I had no fucking clue what I was doing. Sorry for the cursing. I have no clue what I was doing, right? Um, but it worked anyway. I got the ideograms right. Um, I got most of the stage twos right, and the stage 3 sketch was amazing. And in the end, it were huts. It made no sense to me at the point of time in session, and it shouldn't actually, because as we both know, you shouldn't analyze your session in session.
Mm,
In the end, it were huts that were standing on water. You know, these huts, I don't know exactly where they are. I think they're in the Amazonas, but they have huts and they're standing on water with these I don't know
stilts,
how you call them in English. Yeah, exactly.
right,
And I drew the stills, I drew the huts and everything, and it was so clear that I was convinced, okay, this works.
right,
So a couple of days later, my uncle visited, and I showed him that, and he said, "Nah, nah, nah, you must have seen the picture beforehand." And I said, "No, I have not. I never have seen that picture." And but you know how it is. If you try to explain people, when you try to explain people remote viewing, that are pure
yes. I
skeptics.
mean, I think I forget who it was. I think it's Tom in the book I've just reviewed. Um,
Tom
he
McNair,
talks about, yeah, Tom McNair. He talks about how
lovely person.
people just, they just their first time they can do it so easily. So the best way to convince people is say, well, just try, yeah, and
Let's
they
do it.
kind
Let's
of
do it.
like
Yeah, exactly.
freak themselves out. And of course, the first time effect is pretty impressive. And so
Indeed.
what happened from there? Because I'm curious, like, were freaky things happening to you? Were you a bit of a like a psychic kid or
No, not at all. I tried. I was always interested in telepathy, in telekinesis, and all these kind of things, but I was never successful at all. So this was actually the first time I was able to produce some kind of phenomenon that was real, and that psyched me out so much that I just stayed with it. I had to put it on hold for quite a while because of the military career.
Mhm.
But even in my military career, I used it from time to time to, without the knowledge of my teammates, but because they would have said, okay, you need to go to the psych doctor and out of the unit.
Okay. Can we
Because
talk about that? Is that classified?
yeah,
I mean, we can talk about it. Like
yeah, it's no problem. I
actual.
mean, nobody knows, not even the German government knows. So
Okay, so
nobody
I mean,
nobody cares nowadays.
so
I'm
so
out
we could
already.
say it's hearsay anyway. It's hearsay. Yeah.
Exactly,
There's
exactly,
nothing to
exactly.
prove that it happened or
Um,
not, but we have you as a gentleman, yeah. So tell us what happened.
yes,
What
exactly.
you were
Um,
operational, I'm assuming.
So I was in 2017. I was actually already out of the military, and I had picked up remote wing again. And I had the opportunity to go to Syria to fight against ISIS for 8 months, a little bit less than 8 months, 7 months and
Okay.
something. And there I was in an international team of snipers, and we could basically roam around wherever we wanted and find the best position. The problem was to find the best position. So we would go out every day, try to find the best position to get an attack vector in some way. So what I did was I did some sessions and checked, okay, what is the best location? for today? What's the optimum location for today
Okay.
to get the best results, right? And that worked 2 times. I did it only 2 times before, because I had the idea quite late, to be honest. I had the idea like in month 6.
So was it like, were you
And
like dowsing? Were you dowsing?
no, I was remote viewing because we had like 4 or 5 different positions we could choose from. So because like the front line was pretty much the city of Raqqa was encircled, and we were on the south front. So we had like 5 different points where we could go
Okay.
that were secure enough for us to go there, because everything was full of IDs, mines. So there were only a couple of places that were actually secure.
Hmm.
And so what I did was I was remoting the most recognizable landmark of the specific place. And then I
Okay.
just had to look on the map, and I could see, okay, that's where we go today.
Okay.
And since I was a team leader, I could say, guys, this is where we go. And everybody was like, why do we go there? That makes no sense. I was like, just trust me. It's gonna be fine. And
Right.
yeah. People
Okay.
were people were making fun of me because I spent quite a lot of time in the bathroom, as you know, like 30 to 40 minutes. Yeah. People made fun of that a lot. They thought I
Doing
did
it
something
remotely.
else in there that I actually did.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. The
But
remote
they
viewing.
also
Yeah.
wondered why I went in there with paper and pen. So yeah,
Hmm.
it was quite fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. So you've actually, you can say it's anecdotal evidence. You've tried it
Yeah.
in a situation, and operationally, which is actually what I understood, that that's sort of what they were thinking of at the DIA anyway,
Exactly.
originally, like
Exactly.
a squaddy, a GI is on the front line and he needs to know, what's over this hill, what's over this ridge, and he can remote
Yeah.
view it. And yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting. And so since then, I'm also curious, what have you been doing since you left? Have you done any remote viewing since then?
Oh yeah. I mean, I left the army when I was, oh God, I don't even remember my age anymore. Like I stayed in the army for 12 years. My contract ended. I didn't want to be an instructor anymore, because being an instructor is boring. You have no action. You just train the newbies, then you train the advanced and the intermediate people. It's just tedious. I mean, they sent me off on quite a lot of nice and interesting trainings, which was great. Canada, Israel, and so on. But in the end, it was just getting boring, right? So I left the army. I didn't prolong my contract,
Hmm.
and I left the army after 12 years. And then I did remoting for quite a while. Um, then I went to Syria, and after Syria, I came straight here to Brazil, because after the war, it was just like ISIS was beaten, the city was liberated. I was like, yeah, nice. Let's make a round tour through South America before I go back to Germany. But the thing was, I was the first time I touched down in Brazil, especially in Rio, it was probably like, okay, that's my new home. I was at the beach, and it was just nice. It was just amazing. I lived 5 minutes from the beach. So I was, okay, that's my home. That feels good. And yeah, since then I have been doing remote training again. And I had at some point, I think it was a year ago, I did a session of my optimum trajectory, and I came up with a book. And the book, in relation to my military background,
Hmm.
remote viewing book in relation to my. So the whole book idea was actually not my idea; it was the idea of the Matrix. So
Okay.
I cannot even take credit for the book idea, right?
So you kind of
It was
remote viewed
simply
your book. You remote viewed your book
exactly,
from the past to the future, and
exactly.
and you also remote viewed what sort of contents that people needed in there.
Actually,
No?
not. Yeah, yes and no, not quite. I just viewed my optimum trajectory for the next years, and I had in there this book that was about remote viewing and about the, how did I call it? I think I called it tertiary aspects of remote viewing or secondary aspects of something like that.
Yeah.
And on the other side, I had I had my military background. I drew a sniper rifle, right? And an arrow over there from the sniper rifle to the book. So I was like, okay. Oh, and then I had the epiphany, like, why don't I use, I mean, what is closer to being a remote viewer in the civil world than being a sniper? Because you have to be alert, you have to have immense perceptual skills. And so I was like, hey, actually that fits extremely well to use those skills that I have learned and the training that I went through
Yeah.
to teach other people to do the same,
Yeah. Yeah.
to expand the vocabulary, which is quite interesting and also important, um, to train their senses, to train how to draw,
Mm.
and all those things, right? That are all included in my book. So yeah,
So
the original idea came from the Matrix, but the content later came.
because it sounds to me like what you, well, like we were talking before a little bit about it. It's like, and now I've
Yeah,
got a copy. I'm going to read it and I will review it because I think
great.
just what you're saying. Okay, yeah, I believe the author because it's a reasonable supposition that you're telling the truth. Um, uh,
If
what you're
if
saying
if
is a
somebody doesn't
lot of,
believe me, just do a remote wing session.
yeah. Well, they can
Where
ask you.
have I
Yeah.
been in 2017?
But like no, but the point is like it's the things that remote viewing training doesn't teach you that you need actually when
Yeah,
you're doing remote
exactly,
viewing. So that was like,
exactly.
oh, I want this book. I need to order this book. This is really interesting because
Yeah,
interestingly enough, the difficulties I had, I learned with Lynn, the difficulties I
yeah,
had
I know.
with remote viewing was when I would have an I was, whoa, well, this is a bit much, or
Yes.
and
How can
I
you
didn't know what,
put that down? Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know how to deal with it because it was like, yeah, you're on target. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be there. I just do not want to be on target. Um, and
Yeah. I have a story
uh,
about that as well.
well, it was only with targets where silly target, um, a rocket is taking off with people in the cone because they're doing like a
Mhm.
moon landing or whatever, and I'm seeing the remote viewing is of that, and I'm like terrified. I'm like, oh, something really, really big is happening right now, and of course it's literally taking
Yeah.
off, and I'm like, of course, I'm relating to these astronauts are sitting in there, on a million billion tons of fuel going directly up, nothing flammable, going directly up, and like, for me, I'm like, no, I mean, it works, but I can't do it because I'm literally, I
You don't
can't.
want to be there. Yeah,
I
get
don't
it,
want to
get it.
be there. And so in
The
fact,
AIs
I
are too
said
strong.
I got some feedback from the Foundations of Remote Viewing book, and I was like, oh, that helps. I could try that. Um, but essentially what I'm saying is, yeah, so the remote viewers, the teachers are often going to teach you like step one, step two, step three, step four, and
Exactly.
all the stuff around is what you've
It's missed out.
outlined in your book, and it's sort of yeah,
Exactly.
so cool. So what have you noticed? Can I ask you that? So what have you noticed that people like really, really need with their remote viewing training that's not in the training?
I mean, usually what you have in the training is you learn your ideograms, you learn the structure. I mean, sometimes you don't learn the ideograms because it's free form, right? Like in the original Ingo CRV, they didn't have the styles or the archetypes, right? The fixed ones. So
Right.
you learn that, you learn stage one, you learn stage two, three, four, five, six. And in stage 6, you learn all the tools and stuff. The thing what you don't learn is, for example, okay, I should maybe broaden my sensory palette because I can only describe what I know. And
Right.
that is often the problem when we try to describe the future because we don't have words for what's going on in the future. If you go 100 years in the future, like let's imagine remote viewing would have existed, like, or no, let's imagine in 1996 when remote view came out, somebody would have tried to remote view an iPad. What do you think would have happened? There was no concept for that, right? So in order to enable somebody to remote view something they don't know something about, you need to broaden your sensory palette. You need words for that. You need to have some kind of experiences, right?
Right.
And that's really, really important. And also the sketching skills, because just because you're a good artist does not necessarily mean that you can do good sketches. I have recently taken Pam Coronado's course in advanced psychic, the advanced psychic detective course, and I was able to pretty accurately draw a face of a woman who murdered her ex-boyfriend. Not a very nice thing, but it's Pam's thing, right? Right.
Right. Right.
So and you literally can put those two pictures next to each other, the real image, the real picture, and my drawing, and you could overlay them,
Yeah.
and they're almost the same. So
And this is
there
something
is a
you're
way to
teaching in the book,
incorporate
as it
that.
were.
Exactly, exactly. Yes,
Right.
that's what I'm teaching the book, how to incorporate your drawing skills, or even if you have no drawing skills, how to make drawing, how to learn how to draw,
Mm.
not necessarily faces, but structures, plans, every kind of stuff, and put that in your stage 3 or your stage 6 later, right?
Mm. Mm.
And that's quite important. And the same obviously goes for stage 2 when you have descriptors, and stage 4. So yeah, I think this is really, really important and is very often or almost always left out in motoring training
Mm.
because there's just not enough time, right? I mean, who has time to go out with their students and go for a 2-day trip maybe and touch rocks and let them describe, hey, how does this rock feel to you compared to the other rock? Or describe the building that you see over there in the distance. Which building? Well, that building. Which building? You need to have words for positions. You need to have words for, okay, the building goes straight up. It has several openings that are lined up horizontally. You need vertically, sorry, and so on, right?
Mm.
And you need words for that. You need words to describe that.
Yeah.
And the problem is most people don't have a very rich descriptive vocabulary. So
I
you
think
can't just read.
it
I
feels.
mean, I have,
Mhm.
yeah, keep going.
What I feel like is what you're asking people to become aware of is like the obvious, to like the thing that
Yes.
they, like, oh, describe a cup to me. Well, it's a cup, isn't it?
But
Okay, well,
yeah,
but
and
if
there
somebody
are
can't
those
see it and
exercises
they
in my
don't
book.
know what a cup is, how do you describe it? And it's like, oh, that's interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Um,
it.
and
And
drinking.
it's
Yeah.
mostly, yeah, exactly. It's mostly a workbook. So, or it's half a workbook and half an explanatory book. So I have spaces in there where you can write in, where I put a picture of, for example, an apple. And then I have, okay, describe the apple to me. Describe the apple in words, just adjectives. No apple, no nothing. Sphere, red.
Mm, mm,
Um, what else? What else is there? Right?
mm,
So,
mm.
and the problem is even if you have those kind of those descriptor lists, I don't know if you can see it because we have kind of like kind
Right.
of a backlight. Even if you have those descriptor lists, which are quite famous or quite common in the remote viewing scene, the problem is you cannot go over those descriptor lists in the middle of the remote viewing session because you have a pace, right? So you
Right.
need to know those words. And in the book, I have exercises to ingrain those words into your everyday vocabulary.
Okay.
It may sound, it may sound to other people then as if you're a smartass from time to time because you can describe things better than they can or other than they can. But in the end, you're gonna get a lot out of it. Not only for remote viewing, but for your everyday life. Because in general, being more mindful, and you know that quite well, I guess. I mean, you do meditation, you do Tai Chi, and so you know being aware and mindful about what's going on around you and inside of you as well.
Mm.
Because it's not only about my book is not only about what's going on around you, it's also about what's going on inside you.
Yeah.
Because learning remote viewing can be quite tedious at times. You have these plateaus, you have the going down phase where you have literally no success for weeks.
Mm.
You do session after session and you have no success. How do you deal with that? So my psychology study was really, really helpful for that. And right now I'm in contact with SRI. I'm not allowed to say his name, but you can Google him. He's in charge of the medical lab, and he's a very famous neuroscientist. And he and I were working right now on some really interesting things about what can you do. And I have already included a lot of those things in my book. What can you do in terms of meditation? What can you do in terms of self-compassion
Mm.
when you do mistakes in your remote viewing session? So that the learning curve is not like this, but more like this. So it goes more straight up than usual.
Right. Right.
And I had a couple of students now that I applied that with, and it works quite well.
Right. Cool.
So I think I have partially cracked the learning curve, at least anecdotally, because I don't have a large number of people. So I
Right.
could say it's significantly, right?
Right. Right. I get that. So you actually was going to ask, are you teaching remote viewing?
Yes, yes, I do. I
Right.
teach technical room. Yeah,
You're teaching TRV and then you're coaching people, as it were, in these extra skills.
exactly.
And you could do that for anybody. I mean, that wouldn't matter if they're CRV or TRV, I'm assuming.
No, I mean, if somebody comes to me and says like, "Hey, I do CRV from Lynn Buchanan, I do CRV from Paul Smith," I don't care. It doesn't matter because those kind of skills, they're always the same. It doesn't matter if you do TRV, CRV, SRV, whatever you do, it does not matter. You
Right.
need those skills to succeed, right? To grow,
Yeah.
to grow faster, right?
Yeah. I think that's certainly one of the things, like I felt like to even be good at remote viewing, there has to be a path to what I call self-mastery, like
Yes.
knowing yourself. And I think, if we're talking about like I think is Sniper in German Einzelkämpfer? Is that what it is? No.
No, the Einzelkämpfer is a very special. It's the same as SEER training in the United States. Einzelkämpfer is the survival training. Sniper in German is Scharfschütze.
Scharfschütze. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So the Einzelkämpfer would be that has two levels, and it's a survival training. The
Right.
first one is about survive on your own. The second one is be in charge of a group of people who need to survive.
Okay.
And it's very, very closely related to SEER training of the United States,
Okay. Good. Yeah,
or
because
even the
I
SAS.
okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, so that's just clarified that for me. So I suppose my question is, have you remote viewed your future now? Where do you go from here, Tobias?
Well, like I said, I did an optimal sorry. Sometimes the trajectory word is so hard for me to say as a German. Um,
But
I have remote viewed my optimum trajectory about a year ago. And for me, remote viewing is what will keep me happy, what will keep me financially safe and stable.
Mm.
So I'll stay with that. There's no, I don't see any reason why I should change that. My future has shown more of a practical application, more practical than teaching. So I'm in really close contact with Ed at Dames, and I will go there in October to Sacramento to meet him and have training with him for 5 days. And yeah, it will be quite an adventure, I guess, because we have a lot of things in common. The military background, we do both free diving and all kind of crazy stuff. I'm not quite, and I say that in the very nice, in the nicest way I can. I'm not quite as much asshole as he is, but I can be as well.
I,
I can
I,
be as well if I want to.
I,
He's seriously, he's a very amazing guy. He cares about his students a lot, but he can be an ass face sometimes.
yeah, I can't make a comment on either of those people. I mean, you or him, so I can, yeah, I'll leave that to other people.
Yeah, I get, I
Who
agree.
know who know both of you better. But and I would say that it's part of being human, being an arsehole sometimes.
Exactly.
So I
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's
necessarily
true.
say where any of us is immune to being an asshole.
Yeah,
Um,
I think
okay, so
sometimes you need to set boundaries. That's all. And
how
sometimes those boundaries need to be set hard.
how do people get hold of you?
I have two websites. So the first website is about a book. It's remoteviewingskills.com. Pretty
Mhm.
simple. And the other website is trvmentoring.com.
Okay,
And that's where you find my, it's not quite finished yet because I have just remodeled the website, but potentially you can just go there, find my email address or fill out the contact form and easily get a hold of me or
okay,
just find me on Facebook. It's quite
okay.
easy.
I want to ask you. Um, I
Sure.
want to ask you this because I think it's interesting and it doesn't have to have any kind of special answer. But now having been involved in really what we can call a psychic, discipline for a number of years, what is the freakiest thing that's ever happened? And it doesn't have to be in remote viewing. Yeah, it could be.
Let me think about that really quickly.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Freakiest thing. No, it's all good. It's all good. It's a very nice question. It's an interesting question because I have never thought of that myself. Um, secretary. Um, I think the freakiest thing that has happened was that Sasha from I'm not I stay away from all kinds of I stay away from all kinds of um, mystical targets, right? Everything
Okay,
that I cannot get immediate feedback on or feedback on later, or feedback later on, I stay away from. So all
okay,
kinds of
esoteric targets.
mystical
Yeah.
targets, esoteric targets, UFOs, Bigfoot, everything like that, I stay away from it.
Okay.
Simply because I think no, it's not really good. Um, so the freakiest thing happened so far was, I think a couple of months ago, Sasha Cullen from Magic in the Noise tasked me with a session, and she's a friend of mine, and it was an encounter where I think this is quite common, where a farmer had a UFO land on his property, on his farm, and they needed water. In exchange for water, they gave him a pancake, or they gave him a couple of pancakes. So I was really hooked by that session. I don't know why, but I was really hooked in that session, and I had absolutely no clue what it was. But I drew it in such, and you can ask Sasha about this. I drew it in such detail. Even the pancake was really really written really out there, um, and even the whole thing, because I believe they needed the, if it even happened. I don't know. I mean, it can be just an idea in my head that I was remote viewing.
Mm,
Um, or an idea that people have in general, which sometimes happens, right? But in my session, it happened that they need the water to transfer it into fuel.
right.
So after she told me what the session was all about, I was completely shocked because I was like, what the hell did you do? Because she's actually a scientist. So I assumed she would task me with something like the current reactor that makes particle uh, things and particle collisions and stuff like that. And
Right, right.
it looked like that. But it was not that. It was a UFO, a pancake, and stuff like that. So it was like was
Okay,
completely over the
but
top.
that's it's an interesting feedback from you because, like you and I know I could target you, Batman or Deadpool, and you would hit
Yeah,
the target and you would get a session and you'd be able to describe this person and so on. Um, and
yeah,
that's kind of difficult for people outside the psychic understanding to think, but that isn't real. It's like, well, actually, psychically it is. Um, and so this
because
kind
people
of,
have a concept of Batman.
yeah, well, they have
Exactly,
concepts of aliens. Exactly. So it's kind of the frustrating one where we go,
exactly,
and I've proven absolutely nothing, but I was kind of on target. So kind of interesting.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I do believe in UFOs. I do believe in aliens, but I just don't want to. I just don't want to do remote viewing sessions on them.
No,
That's
I'm with
just
you. I'm with you. I mean,
right.
um, I'm with you. I don't necessarily agree with you, but I'm with you. I get it. Like
Yeah,
I totally get it. I I think there's certain things that yes, I mean it's just my opinion. I think it's particularly interesting. I think it gets interesting when we're talking about mind control eventually, where
yeah,
it's verging on conspiracy theory, where there's a telepathic, control by an entity affecting
yeah,
people. That's a whole big can of worms, which I think um
yeah. That we
we're
don't need
not
to
gonna.
open now if you
Yeah, it's like,
don't. I don't want. I don't
well,
want to.
back in, yeah.
The same way I stay away from any kind of government bases. I don't go into government bases. It's just
Mm.
somehow either it's from my military background that I'm like, okay, I have no clearance for that, so let's stay out of that. Or it's just because of all the stories I heard from different remote viewers that say like, hey, somebody saw me in there and said, get out of here. I don't
Right,
know. I'm just scared of that. I mean, I have seen really scary things in the war, but having somebody in a remote viewing session tell you get the heck out of here, I don't want to have that.
right,
Sorry,
right.
it's not my
Understand.
thing.
And
Right?
but people are like they're connecting with you through these agencies that task remote viewers, and then you're getting targets like regularly getting targets and doing be able to.
Yeah,
People know what you like to do, and you just say, "I want to do this sort of target," and they already know, you're up for it.
exactly. I usually when people tell me like, hey, I would like you to do that kind of target, I say, look, if it is a mystery, UFO, or a military base, I'm not going to do it. And
Cool.
then they say either yes or no, that's okay. I don't want to be front loaded. I don't want to know anything about the target, but I want to know if it's what that it's not one of those things.
Yeah, yeah. That's good.
That's
That's
basically
very
it,
cool.
right?
Tobias, I wish you all the success with your book. I know how much work it is
Thank you very much.
to do a
Oh God,
book.
yeah.
I'm you know, people
It
can
was almost
connect
a
with you
year.
and yeah, right. People can connect with you and ask you questions, and I think that we can we can
Exactly.
come back together and I can maybe get, either I'm going to do a review of the book or we'll come back together and I'll talk to
Sure.
you, ask you questions about the book so that people can get a better
Be a
handle on it.
pleasure. Would be
Lovely talking to
definitely a
you.
pleasure. Same. Richard, have a nice day.
You